What is good, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's going on with NIO stock, what the news is saying about the company, what you should be watching for as time progresses, because tomorrow is going to be a very important day as we have CPI data coming out. So I'm going to break down how this could affect NIO, what you should be watching for as time progresses, and some very important levels to watch for in NIO as we're approaching some big support. But before I break anything down all this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I am firstly not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100 into the account, you are guaranteed up to 5 free stocks. It's offer ends in just 2 days, so check it out before they run out. Anyways, let's break down what's going on with the market. NIO is down 0.28% for the day as we saw some tickers cooling off a bit. This is something that we were talking about in my video from yesterday as one of the possibilities. But the question now remains, what is going to be the bigger move and what's going to happen for tomorrow because we have CPI data coming out. So I'm going to be talking about CPI, then break down the different levels to watch for on the charts, and then talk about NIO stock. But first, let's talk about all this news. When is CPI coming out? This is going to be the Consumer Price Index. It is coming out an hour before the market opens for tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We want core CPI to be around 4 to 4.1%. If it's above 4.1%, that's going to be bearish for the markets. If it's below that, that's going to be bullish. Looking at the current trend on CPI, we have it right here. You can see that CPI overall has been on a slight uptrend, but it's not that extreme. This is for all items. It's been inflated a bit by energy and just a couple of other factors for the last few months, but energy has been cooling off a bit as of recent. However, we're going to be looking at core because core is going to be more important during the cycle as this has still been holding up these higher levels. So I'm going to be watching to see if there's a little spike in core or not. If inflation goes up a little bit more, especially on the core side of things, we're going to be watching the Fed watch tool. Do we see the market start pricing in another rate hike from the Fed? Right now, the market's anticipating that there's an 86% chance almost that the Fed is going to be basically pausing in December. So we'll be watching this very carefully. This is going to have a big effect on how the market moves. Moving forward, the fear and greed index is still a little bit more on the fearful side, and most signals, are kind of neutral for the time being. So we'll be watching this carefully as well. As far as NIO goes, NIO has basically 34 million in volume, very flat volume. Didn't really do anything, just barely moved today, and it may continue on this trend for just a few more days until we approach earnings. But there's no confirmed date for NIO's earnings yet. It might be over the next 2 weeks for sure, sometime during that period. So we're going to be watching that very carefully as time goes on. Now, NIO has been just posting more and more documentaries about, different efforts to start cleaning up the environment, cleaning up different different parks around the world. I'm sorry, not parts, different parks and things like that. So that's good for them as they have a very good mission, very good amount of work that's being done, at least to help improve the environment. But the thing is, NIO is still focusing on improving their own management team. They're on the appointment of an independent director. And with this essentially happening with this new appointment, this could be beneficial for them. We're going to be waiting, okay, very carefully for the next few weeks to see how earnings go and then what happens with NIO's sales for the month of November. As long as NIO does well, as long as their margins are not too bad, and as long as guidance is decent, NIO is going to be just fine. I would not be worried about it whatsoever. So what do I see from a technical standpoint? Right now, NIO is getting very close to a bearish cross in the PPO, which suggests there could be a bit more downside, but that's going to depend on CPI. However, I want to call out SPY and QQQ because they both have triple bearish divergences on the 4-hour time frame, which is suggesting that there's going to be some downside likely coming very soon to the markets. If we get that downside, this could actually affect NIO and these different ETFs and etc. So, with them being impacted, this is going to be very important to watch because it's going to end up affecting not only NIO but other stocks out there. So, with the triple bearish divergence, the odds do favor the downside, but here's how you should be going about tomorrow. If SPY manages to get decent data, if CPI is cooler than expected, watch it break 441. If we manage to break and hold it, and we continue to remain strong above it, we break our trend line of resistance, I anticipate 444 is coming. If we lose 438, we're going to turn bearish and watch for 36.5. For Tesla, if we're bullish, you want to see this thing break 25. If it keeps breaking, watch for did I say 25? Sorry, 225. If you break 225, then watch for 230. That's going to be bullish. If we're bearish, you want to see this thing lose 217. If If it loses 217, it's going to start sinking all the way back down to about 214. And then if that fails us, the next level to be watching for is going to be closer to like 212. Then we have like 209 below that. Now, it's going to depend on CPI, so we'll be waiting for that going into tomorrow. For Aapl, if we're bullish after CPI, if we get a good CPI, watch for 185 to break. If we break it, you're going to be looking for a move to 187. If we're bearish, you want to see it lose 184 to test 183.5. If that fails us, 181.5 to 182 is coming for more downside. For the QQQ, for bullish, you want to see it break 378 to hit 380. If we're bearish, you want to see this thing break 375. Then we have 374.2. If that fails us, it's coming all the way back down towards 372.5. Then we have 370 below that. If we lose this 20 EMA at 374. So we're going to be watching that very carefully. For Nvidia, if we're bullish, if it manages to break resistance at 490, this thing could push up towards 500, but Nvidia is overbought, so we have a bearish divergence. The odds do favor this thing coming down, back down towards 480, even like 475. So I'm just going to be watching this just to be safe. Finally, for NIO, how could all of this affect NIO? If we get a decent CPI, we could see NIO technically try to bounce with the market and make its way up towards 7.48 to test the 4-hour 20 EMA. And if we're bearish, you want to see NIO continue to drop. So NIO has strong support back here around this $7 area. So I have to go all the way back on the chart. I'm actually going to pull up the daily to show you this. Let's actually go back to the daily. On the daily, we have $7 as key supports. That's going to be strong supports. We have a slight bullish divergence trying to develop, which tells us that NIO could drop a little bit more and then try to bounce later. But my gut tells me it might actually drop a bit more. We could see this thing come down towards that $7 area. There's going to be a risk of downside looking at the daily PPO. So we might see a little bit more downside. I could see $7 coming before it bounces. We managed to hit around that 7.11 is what we hit for today. So $7 flat is a real possibility, but we'll be watching to see if there are any other changes, at least for the time being. So I do anticipate a little bit more downside. I think $7 could be tested, but just to be safe, let's wait and see how things look. Let's see how NIO performs compared to the markets, and we'll be very patient as time progresses. All right. So anyways, we have some big data for tomorrow. CPI is coming out. That's going to have a big effect on how the market moves and the Fed's future policies. It's going to be very important to pay attention to that an hour before the market opens tomorrow. So we're going to be watching that carefully, and we'll see how things go from there. With that said, make sure you watch these different levels on NIO. If it's bullish, you want to see if NIO could try to get above 7.48. If it does so, then 7.8 is coming. If we're bearish, you want to see it lose, 7.11 and come down towards $7. We'll see if that holds, but we're getting very close to the support historically. But in my opinion, the odds favor a little bit more downside for NIO based off technicals. And for CPI, I'm not 100% sure about CPI. We'll just have to see what this looks like tomorrow, but just be prepared for some possible downside just to be safe. All right, so that's it. Thank you for listening. Watch these different levels and watch your charts, and I'll see you guys very soon again. Thanks again, and peace out.